Welcome to the Brady Events and Marketing Podcast, where we give you tips on planning great events for corporations, nonprofits, and also a really unique insight on marketing too. Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Morosco. I am an entrepreneur, CEO of Brady Events and Marketing, and publisher of Kudos Magazine. I've been consulting in events and marketing for over 20 years for various corporations and nonprofits. And the one thing I've learned is it's an industry that is continually changing. So make sure that you subscribe now so that you can stay up to date on the latest trends, tips, and things you need to know to help your organization or yourself shine on like a crazy diamond. So let's just jump right into it. Great. So if you've been in business for any amount of time, I'm sure the idea of contracts have come into play. And if you're a new business, it's something that you should pay attention to quickly so you can avoid headaches and unnecessary aches and pains. So often we come up with these big ideas of what we want to achieve and the goals that we have, and we connect with people that seem to have the same ideas and passions as us. But as time goes by, different factors happen in life and in business, and different personalities and different comes up. And one of the key things to being able to have a little bit of peace of mind is doing the basic thing, writing it down, getting it put into a contract so you know your client's expectations and they know yours. And this actually goes across the board beyond just clients. It could be somebody that you've contracted out work to as a vendor, or your client, or whomever that you're doing this relationship, and there's this expectation of exchange of, goods or services. So the main thing is write it down, get it down in writing, and become very specific about the details, knowing that the verbal communication that you have really isn't good enough, especially if you're exchanging amount of money or you're relying on them to provide payment for services or goods that you're going to provide. So the first thing is dive into the who, what, how, when, where, and create a very specific deliverable of when things are going to happen, or how that those numbers will be appropriated on your project. And there may be some things, if you're dealing with, a perishable item, to include that, and having expectations, like if a client has a specific flour or a specific food, and let's say that it becomes unavailable. It could be tuna, and there's something wrong with tuna, and you have to be able to do a replacement of equal or comparable value. But when you start getting into details like that, it's really worth the venture to go meet with a business attorney who can properly draw up contracts to make sure all of that's in there. The great thing is it just becomes a one-time fee, and then you can use that contract for other endeavors that you have in the future. There may be some that have to be, very customized. I had one client that it was a very large budget and a very large project, and we went back and forth. It was probably for about maybe 6 weeks with attorneys reviewing contracts and defining things. But the beautiful thing is it allowed me to know exactly what their expectations were of me and my expectations of them. Because even if somebody is paying you, it's a mutual relationship where everyone is expecting people to play different roles. And that can even be in terms of payment. I think that some smaller agencies may be misled if you deal with larger corporations, let's say like one of the big three auto companies, and you think, they have this huge budget and you're going to be paid promptly. That might not always be the case. So you've got to define payment terms very quickly. I've heard of so many small businesses that have gone under because they had to pay their vendors for work that they provided to a large corporation, yet they had yet to be paid. So it's an unfortunate game, but it's the reality of how things are. So don't get caught into the razzmatazz of a big company name. Have it written down so everybody is on the same page, and then there's no breakdown in communication. And it is really important, especially as you're getting into larger accounts, to make sure that's in there. But I've seen it a lot with startup companies, of people that will get out there into the marketplace and try to make these connections with people. And they're very eager and excited to bring on new clients, which is wonderful. But sometimes it gets shortchanged by maybe delivering all of their goods up front. And I'm going to give you an example. Recently, this was a vendor that I contracted out who it was a pretty clever setup, and he explained to me why he arranged it this way. And it was basically he was finding clients that were coming in for the first month and paying like the 1 month fee, but that was predominantly when most of the back end work would happen, and he would get everything set up, and then they would leave after that one-time fee. And he wasn't able to spread it out over time. So he changed his package, and he created where it was 3 months up front, and then to be able to switch to monthly. Now, that was somebody that really looked at his business model to find out why his clients were falling off the table and not converting to long term. They were just putting a big burden onto his workload and reaping the benefits. And that was, their advantage. They found that loophole. But fortunately, he was able to identify how to work it better, where he wasn't getting logged down at the front end with all that stuff without it being reciprocated over time. So that's another thing to look at, is how do things play out in real life with your current clients, and then make adjustments for future clients, because ultimately you don't want to work for free. You want to make sure that it's profitable, and at the last minute you don't have stress of a client or a vendor that falls short of what you thought was communicated verbally. And it's very important. I'll give you another example of something that had happened to me years ago. Is I was working with a client that was producing a pretty big show, and I think on their end, I don't know what had happened, but at the 9th hour, they ended up pulling out of all of their advertising promotion that they were doing on TV and print and all these different things. And of course, it had an impact on the event. And I think that one of the lessons that I learned was having a more detailed understanding of events that we were producing and what was happening on that end. So it did have the proper engagement for our agency. But those are vital things that some things you don't learn until you get through it. And that's why, having the opportunity to meet with an attorney who has thought of these things in advance will be able to help map it out. But even some things may be unique to your situation that they don't know about. And if you get it down in writing of what of the things that are specific, they'll be able to, customize contracts for you. So take a look at that, and, don't be afraid of creating opportunity, but just know that there are some people that may not have your best interest in mind. And, that's an unfortunate part of life. I think that majority of people have good intent, but to keep everybody on the same page, get it in writing, document it, and even write down different things that correlate to conversations that you're having with that client, so you know that you're not overlooking anything, because ultimately you want them to walk away happy and to feel that your service was, exactly what they expected or exceeded. That's one of the things that I love to do with my clients is often, they get an invoice for what they received, and then we'll outline bonus things that we provided that were at no cost, no additional cost to them. And it creates a sense of, it's not just a freebie, but it's a sense of, wow, I was really looked after. And it's that personal connection that creates long-lasting relationships. So just enjoy the journey of creating great things for your event and marketing purposes. And remember that simple saying, get it in writing. All right. In the meantime, I wish you happy planning and much success in all of your endeavors. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.